In this age of gender confusion, it's difficult to find advice you can trust to help protect your child from those who would seek to unduly influence them, setting them up to be manipulated and exploited. On Unmasking the Trans Movement, we discuss, educate, and deliver the info parents want and need to help their children, grandchildren, and even themselves.
Welcome to Unmasking the Trans Movement. Now, here's your host, Brad Wilder.
Good evening and welcome to Unmasking the Trans Movement. I'm your host, Brad Wilder. Good to have everybody with us tonight. John Euler is standing by along with our wonderful guest who is, well, been on the show before, but it's been a while since we've talked to this individual. And boy, I tell you what, there was a lot of good things that came out of our first couple of episodes we did with Alvin Lui. Tonight is going to be no different. We're just getting the program up and running live. We noticed a little bit of a glitch there right at the beginning, but I think we're on track and everything looks like it's working at the moment. You might be just logging in. Again, I noticed our live stream right at the bottom there says Uda Hagen tonight. I'm sorry about that, Alvin. We'll get that figured up in just a second here. John is our expert at the YouTube angle on this program, so we'll let him kind of fix that up in just a minute here. Our chat room is open tonight for comments, questions. You want to get in and talk to the guys, you're welcome to do that, and they'll give you some great answers to some of the tough questions that others will not. No boundaries, no limits. Let's get into a great show tonight. This is Unmasking the Trans Movement with John Euler. With that, let's bring in our two wonderful gentlemen right now, John and Alvin. Great to have you guys on the show. Thank you so much for being here. This is your long weekend down in the States, a Memorial Day, and you know what? We're up here in Canada. We're just getting into the beginning of summer. It's just starting to get to, temperatures where you can wear a t-shirt and shorts, but how's your weather looking down there for your Memorial Day long weekend?
It's looking great.
Yeah, I think John's microphone is turned off at the moment, so we'll get him to flip that on. There we go. Now go ahead.
Weather's doing great. Weather's perfect.
I'm going to try to make sure that we get the thumbnail, as it were, changed. That's a little tech glitch there. But Alvin Lui, welcome. You're a powerhouse. We're excited to have you. You're one of my favorites because you are all over the place in terms of impact, in terms of what you're doing. So welcome. Thank you for taking the time on a Sunday evening here.
Thank you for having me, gentlemen. I always love what you guys are doing. I appreciate what you guys are doing. So looking forward to sharing some of our Courage is a Habit tools, giving parents confidence to fight back against the transgender cult, and taking some questions from the open chat room here.
Absolutely.
There you go. So let's start. Let's give you the floor. Introduce yourself. I want parents to know that they can collaborate with you. They can get a group of parents together, churches together, really ultimately local leaders together to hire Courage as a Habit to come in and help educate local people to be able to go to their local school board with confidence and be able to take back this ground, because schools now are the number one target for those pushing the greatest deception we've ever seen, the trans deception, the trans movement. And so your tools are second to none, meaning I think they're the best out there. So let's start. I'm going to have you introduce yourself, talk about Courage is a Habit, talk about the resources available. You also have a live chat, so take it away from here, and then I will jump in. But you've got so much to share, but every now and then I'll jump in with a question that somebody also in my mind might have.
Absolutely. And anybody has questions on the chat, I'll be happy to answer as best I can. So my name is Alvin Lui, like you guys said, and so I'm the president of Courage is a Habit. So look, everybody knows that if you want to change culture, if you want to change the course of a nation, you go after the kids. Mao understood it. Hitler understood it. Stalin understood it. Everybody, all the dictators understand it. And so tonight, of course, you guys do a lot of the work exposing the transgender cult and the transgender ideology. And there's this discussion that's in the ether that talks about where is it coming from? Where is it the social media? Is it this? Is it that? Is it the big pharma? Is it all the money they can make in surgeries and drugs? And yes to all that. But this isn't a chicken or the egg discussion, gentlemen. This isn't a chicken or the egg. We know exactly where the egg is. The egg starts at the K through 12. That's where it all hatches. And social media will reinforce it. Obviously, there's a lot of financial incentive to make these children lifelong patients. You sterilize them with irreversible puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones, of course, and then you go into surgeries and there's a lifelong medical patient, if they even live that long to begin with. But it starts in K through 12, and that's what my organization does. We focus on the government K through 12, both public and private schools. Like you said, we come in and we help parents battle all the different indoctrination beyond the transgenderism, although that's a huge one, of course. So courage is a habit. I'm just going to give a real brief because I know I want to focus on the meat of what we're talking about today. Courage is a habit really does two things. There's two arms to us. The first arm is that we provide tools and strategies for the average parent, not people like you and me, John. Not people like you and me that live in it 24/7, to the average parent that have little kids that maybe don't even have the time to drink a hot cup of coffee or take a shower. We work for those parents. And we provide tools. We distill the indoctrination programs down to very easy to consume tools for parents and legislators. We find shockingly that 99% of legislators have no idea what is actually in the schools. 99%, no idea. And so we make those tools for them. They're visually stunning. They're easy to consume. But here's the most important thing about our tools. We always have a call to action. Because at Courage is a Habit, we believe that if you create outrage without an outlet, you actually end up creating hopelessness. And that's the last thing that we want, is that apathy.
Alvin, do you have some of those? First of all, I want you to talk about your live stream. I want you to talk a little bit more about the organization, but then show some examples of your material. You and your graphic design folks are, I'm a little bit jealous, but you know what? It's excellent. Absolutely excellent material.
I appreciate that. Well, we're going to get into some of the tools here because we really want parents to know how to do things. But I'll give you an example of one of these tools. Let me know if you guys can see this.
There you go. Looks great.
So this is called Behind Closed Doors. It's our campaign to expose school counselors because school counselors are the biggest purveyors of the transgender cult.
Correct.
And so what we did was we infiltrated their events, their webinars, their seminars, their PowerPoint trainings, their all their
They have a special day up here in Canada. They call it a PD day. They call it personal development. But all of them they're all sitting at the university learning DEI. And it's crazy to think about how much they've put into this and for how long. This isn't something that came up at the beginning of COVID. This started like in 2013 when it really started to ramp up, and these PD days became teachers going to the universities, sitting in a large lecture theater, going through all of this wonderful new stuff that they want to promote so heavily, and they got them all to buy into it. And they were all mostly liberal kind of teachers to begin with. So it was easy to get them into this and hooked on it. And wow, ching, ching, dollar signs. And that's the real issue, is the money behind this crap, isn't it?
It's both money and it's a missionary. It's a religion. It's a religion for these people. And so this event, ASCA, the American School Counselor Association, is the same thing in Canada. I'm pretty familiar with what you guys got up there. Same blueprint, nothing different.
Yeah.
And so, so this is just an example. We'll get into this. We'll come back to this when this means a little bit more. You had said, do you have an example of some of our, and so this is an example. We basically just distill it down to say, hey, this is what they're teaching your school counselors. This is how they're teaching them to push the transgender ideology onto your kids. This is how they're teaching them to talk. This is how they're teaching them to infuse your school with this language. This is how they're teaching them to circumvent you, the parent. So that's one way. That's one thing that we do. The main thing that we do. But the second thing, and in my opinion, the second thing that we do is probably actually more important, And that is, we teach parents that they've been brainwashed first. It's real easy, it's real natural to say children are being brainwashed because they are, is social contagion. But if parents were not brainwashed first, then they could not get to the kids until they got the parents to stand down. So there's only two ways to get parents to stand down. You either get them or three ways. So three ways. You get them to stand down out of guilt, out of fear, or out of apathy. And that's what we get into. And so that's probably where I want to start with tonight about, let's talk about why the transgender ideology has taken over. And we'll start with, the parents and your normal average Canadian and Americans, you're just normal person first. And we'll break that down. And I think if we can get people to understand that they've been brainwashed first, it'll be so much easier to push back on the transgender cult and all their emotional blackmail that you and I are quite familiar with.
And that's excellent, Alvin. And that's exactly what parents need to understand. Nobody likes to believe they've been taken for a ride, that they've been brainwashed. But even when we tell them there's no such thing as trans, right? This thing's been going on for 20 years and they're shocked. So, parents, sit down, buckle up. We need truth.
Are we fair to say that parents have been accepting because they want to sort of, I guess, portray themselves as, hip and cool within their own families to try to say, hey, I understand and everything's okay and it's okay to be this way. And do you feel that way? Are they starting to ask questions, or are they just reeling it in? Like, are they pushing their kids? Are the parents now pushing their kids, or are they, really guiding their kids into it because they're trying to just be the hipster with their kid to say, I understand, I'm cool with it. I think.
Well, I would say that it's I would say that it's a mixed bag. It's not any one thing or the other. You have to understand that when you push a social contagion like this, where you're quite literally sterilizing and mutilating children, it is the greatest medical fraud of our time. And by the way, I want to talk about something before we get into that, Brad, about why, how the parents are falling for it. Let's kind of start from the very core issue that I believe, at Courage is a Habit, we spend a ton of time on this. We spend a ton of time on this because I believe that if we can't get this part, everything else is less efficient. Not that it doesn't work, but our tools and what you guys do, what John talks about so well. I learn so much from John. Every time I need something, I go and try to peruse one of his things because I learned so much from him and because of his experience and his practice dealing with these sexual deviants. And so I believe that if we don't get this part right, that the Courage is a Habit tools, all of John's great content, it becomes less efficient. Not that it doesn't work, but it becomes less efficient. And here's what it is. We don't have an oppression problem in this country or in Canada. We have a chronic empathy problem. Yep. We've had our kindness weaponized.
Yep.
So the first thing, if anyone's listening and they're like, I'm logging off, I don't want to sit here and listen to this, the only thing I want everyone to remember is this: reject inclusion, embrace exclusion, draw hard boundaries, because good parenting has always been about exclusion. So let's start there first. Those of you who have kids that are listening, or you have a niece and nephew and you've seen, your brother or your sister bring them home. When you bring a new baby home, let me ask you guys a question. When you bring a baby home, how many people do you let hold that newborn those first 3-4 months? Probably very, very few people, right? Maybe your mother, maybe your grandmother, obviously, if she's living with you or she's visiting, but very few people. Why? Because you don't let anybody hold your newborn baby for a lot of reasons. And then when they start getting older and they start crawling around, you quite literally exclude him from his own house. He can't go to the kitchen. He can't go to the bathroom. He can't go to the garage. He can't go near this table. He can't go near that chair. In his own house, he's excluded from things. Then when he gets a little older, hopefully, because we see the damage of when you don't, you exclude the majority of content from his mind. Like the majority of shows and cartoons and music there is such a small sliver of what you allow when you start playing music and you start reading to him, letting him or her watch TV. When they get a little older, you don't let them on social media. Now, John, you and I have seen what happens when you have unfeathered access to social media, when there's no exclusion, when there's only inclusion. Then when they get older and they have friends, you start curating their friends because you don't want them to have bad influences. It goes on and on and on. It's their food. You don't just give them anything, hopefully. So good parenting has always been about exclusion. So where do we get to the point where we let these mentally ill deviants or mentally ill men pretending to be women point a finger at our face, or these woke white women who are counselors and teachers point a finger at our face and say, you need to have inclusion, because if you don't, you're a bigot. When someone says, what's the matter? Don't you love inclusion? Don't you want inclusion? Your answer should be absolutely not. Because as a good parent, I would be a horrible parent if I was all about inclusion. So right there, I want to set that baseline. And that right there is the genesis to everything else, whether it's a Courage as a Habit tool or what John's talking about. If parents can't remember that and accept that, they will get their emotions and their kindness weaponized all day long.
Which then fits in perfectly with the next premise, which is they weaponize our empathy, right? People like to be liked. We like to be nice, but that's where they've got us.
That's right. So back to your question, Brad, now that I've set that foundation, is it because parents go, I want to be hip, I want to be cool, I want to do that? Yes, there's a lot of that. And most of that comes from mostly, not all, but mostly woke white mothers and woke white young mothers, or older women who they've never met a social contagion they didn't love.
How about single parents?
Same thing. Single parents, married, doesn't matter. It's just the woke white women that mainly pushes a transgender ideology. And now, for those of you who are listening and don't believe me, I'm going to have a challenge for you. I'm going to throw a challenge for you. I want you to find me a photo of a Filipino, Japanese, Chinese, South African, Indonesian, Korean mother smiling ear to ear next to her daughter with the double mastectomy scars at the clinic. Find me that photo. You can't find it. Every photo is woke white woman.
You know, you just shocked everybody, right? Everybody's now like reeling, but
go find it. You're not going to find it. If you look at the pictures of the trans rights or human rights and the marching and all that stuff, look who the demographic is. So to answer your question, Brad, part of it is that they're so spineless. They've never met a social contagion they didn't love. So that's true what you said. But there's also a whole other side to it, and that's a hell of a lot more devious, because the people that are pushing this is essentially just part of that critical race theory, critical consciousness.
John,
and it's
what did you call that before? We've talked about this before on the show, and it was we came up with a new term for this. All the women get together and they're all hanging out, and one says something, and then it leads to all of them, believing in it. Like, what was that called again? Uda used it as well.
Social contagion.
No, there was another word.
Almost psychosis, quite frankly.
Psychosis, yeah. And so what happens is you've got this critical, basically it's a Marxist ideology that's infusing in all Western culture, because they're trying to bring in communism. And again, I'm not going to go down that path, because that's
crucial for people to understand, Alvin, because they see this, the trans stuff and the diversity, inclusion, exclusivity stuff. People need to understand they are very closely tied. Those that are pushing it are coming from, it's two pincer movements.
It's the queer theory and critical race theory are the same. It's the same side, different side of the same coin. That's what it is. And so the idea, but in order to push that, you have to separate the children from the parents. So I'm gonna go to the end, and then I'm gonna come back. Everyone's gonna ask, what is this? What is the purpose of this at the end? So I'm gonna answer that question. It's to separate children from their parents. So there, we've answered the question. It's to separate children from their parents. And today we're gonna talk about the process in which they do that. So I want to set the stage here for people listening, if they're, maybe just getting into this, or maybe they know something about it, but not a lot about it. The reason why this has become such a social contagion is that, number one, they've weaponized your kindness. That's the first thing. The second thing, and there's only two things, and then we can get into some of the meat of it. The second thing is language contamination. I'm going to describe this to you in a way that you're never going to forget it. Language contamination is that they use your vocabulary, but not your dictionary. They use your vocabulary, not your dictionary. I will give you an example. When you are in a government K through 12, you say, hey, you're teaching all this stuff under this DIE ideology. We don't call it DEI, we call it DIE, it's DIE, because everything that touches dies. And the teachers go and the counselors go, no, we're just teaching kids empathy. That's all. And the parents will either go, oh, okay, you know what? That's great. We teach empathy too. Or, oh, okay, you know what? I must have misunderstood. Yeah, you know what? I guess it was just all right-wing conspiracy theory. Remember now, there's three ways. There's three ways to get parents. Either they make parents stand out of fear, out of guilt, or out of apathy. Okay?
So that's the Transhausen effect is what I was talking about earlier.
Transhausen,
right?
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Transhausen.
Transhausen.
Yes,
the new word. Yeah.
You know what? I got to give credit to my friends over at Gays Against Groomers. They're the ones who coined that phrase, to my knowledge. So I gotta give credit to
I had to look it up, but I knew I was onto something when I thought of it. I was like, there's something there. I forget what it was, but
my friends at Gays Against Groomers coined that. So, and we use that often. So when they say I'm only teaching empathy, so parents go, okay. Now everybody listening tonight, right, on the stream where they're watching it on the playback, if you have a child who's 7 or 8, 9, 10, 11, that range, right? That's a big range. But when you have to teach a child empathy at that age, you're going to simplify it. You're going to say, how would you like it if you took that, if another child took your toy? How would you're going to put yourself in their shoes. How would you feel if somebody hit you or pushed you off the slide and that kind of thing? So when the schools tell parents, hey, we're just teaching empathy, don't worry about it. It's just all right-wing conspiracy. Don't worry about it. It's just empathy. Parents will go, oh, okay, that's it. We teach empathy too. But that's language contamination. They use your vocabulary, not your dictionary. What they're really doing is they're teaching children from kindergarten on, especially if you're a girl, that by the time the girls, they introduce intersectionality. People are born in the wrong body, marginalized people, they get bullied and they're dying and they need rights. And they're having their rights stripped away, things like that. And so then by the time that girl becomes 15, 16, 17, 18, and a man walks into the locker room and gets naked, instead of having that reaction that she should naturally have, she now has to feel empathy for him. How would you like it if someone kicked you out of the locker room? Where's his human rights? Where's his human dignity? Where is your empathy for the mentally ill man that's invaded your private space? Now, when I give this example in talks and in training, parents will go, that's ridiculous. That's not what I meant when I said it's okay to teach empathy. And I said, right, because they use your vocabulary, not your dictionary. Let me show you one more. Let me show you one other.
And they're overriding intuition. That's really the goal, right? They're separating kids from their parents like any cult does, and like any perpetrator-predator cult. They're going to go after reality testing, which is intuition.
Reality testing. I love that. That's exactly right. You guys see this here?
Yep.
Okay. So let's talk about another language contamination, another type of language contamination. Again, they use your vocabulary, not your dictionary. One of the things that the trans cult is doing currently, they've been successful in certain states already, is they're going around states, the transgender cult and the lobbyists, they're pushing for something called conversion therapy bans. Now, for the majority of people, both in Canada and in America, when you hear the word conversion therapy, because you haven't heard it in quite some time, you have images of strapping a young gay boy, 10-year-old down and shocking them and praying the gay away and beating him and things like that. That's what they want you to think. That's why they use the word conversion therapy. That's why they drudge up such an old term, because obviously no one does that anymore. What they mean is, when you have a conversion therapy ban in your state, it means that therapists, the ones who don't fall for the cult, who doesn't buy that there's such a thing as a trans child, are not allowed to dig deeper to find out why the child believes they're born in the wrong body, because there is no such thing as a trans child. Let's get that very clear. There's no such thing as a trans child. Every baby is born perfect. The children that get wrapped up into the trans cult will have some underlying issue. They either got taken advantage of because they have some autism. Usually 45% of kids that get wrapped up in the cult have autism, so they're taking advantage of that. Or they have sexual abuse, some form of physical abuse, cutting, bulimia, high anxiety, you name it, on and on and on. So the therapists are not allowed to go, let me find out what's going on. I'm going to tell you a story. This is from a therapist. She's older now, so she's probably retired at this point. But 20 years ago, a mom and a dad brought a 3-year-old boy to her office. And they said, he wants to be a girl. He wants to wear dresses. He believes he wants to be a girl. It's 20 years ago, okay? So the therapist did what any good therapist would do. Go, okay, let's talk about what's going on. And so she spent a couple of sessions with him. Within 2 sessions, it came out that he just had a baby sister, but the baby sister was born with a life-threatening defect. And both parents were spending a ton of time in the hospital because the baby girl, her sister, was still in the hospital trying to fight for her life. This sweet 3-year-old boy who's had undivided attention from his parents up until literally a second ago thought that his parents started spending all this time with his baby sister because they loved her more because she's a girl. So he thought that if he was a girl, then he would get his parents back attention and love again. Of course, the therapist, right, she understood it, brought the parents back in, told them that. Parents felt, of course, horribly guilty, but you can't blame them at the time. They're trying to save the life of their little baby girl. They're not thinking this. And then they, of course, made adjustments where one of them would spend time with him more and stuff like that. And boom, gone. She told this story and said, if I was a therapist today, I would not be allowed to dig into that. I would say you have to call them by a different name, put them in dresses, and in a few years, put them on puberty blockers. That is what they call conversion therapy. So the reason why the transgender cult has been able to take hold the way it has is 2 things. They've weaponized your kindness because we have a chronic empathy problem in this country. We don't draw hard boundaries. We feel bad excluding anything, and we should be very exclusive. So remember, good parenting is all about exclusion and language contamination. They use your vocabulary, not your dictionary. And if you can understand those 2 things, stop getting your kindness weaponized against you and understand that they use language contamination. Everything else that we're going to talk about for the rest of this conversation will make a whole lot more sense to you.
There you go. And Alvin, if somebody still isn't quite okay with exclusion, which you should be, how about protection? That's the same thing. When you protect, you exclude.
That's right. Draw boundaries.
There you go.
Good parenting is all about drawing hard boundaries.
That's all this is.
Look, empathy should be an exclusive emotion for a very small amount of people in your life. You should have unlimited empathy for your family, for your parents, provided you don't have like a real toxic, sibling or something like that, but it should be reserved for your loved ones. That's what empathy should be. It is not meant to be a blank check for every single fake marginalized group and their ills that they can come up with. Because if you allow your empathy to be weaponized, it is endless. It's an emotional black hole. And they will take your kids without blinking because you have forgotten that your first job as a parent isn't to be empathetic, it's to be protective. So if you want the transgender cult, even though it's scary for a lot of parents because all the emotional blackmail, they're going to kill themselves if you don't do this, they actually have no power if you remove your empathy from them. Their only power is they suck on your empathy. That's their source of power. If you remove your empathy and they say, trans people are dying, you're like, I don't care. They don't want to, you're not making me, I'm not going to exist. Okay, that sounds like it's your problem, but you're not coming after my child. If you take that attitude, they have no power.
That's right. And you're calling their bluff because they manufacture things at will. So kids are going to kill themselves. That's manufactured.
They're manufactured.
Yeah.
I'll give one thing for everybody that can just destroy that kids are going to kill themselves. So prior to 2007 in the United States, now I can't speak for Canada. You might have to look this up, but I suspect it's probably going to be pretty close. Prior to 2007 in the United States, okay, there was no such thing as protocols to put children on puberty blockers followed by cross-sex hormones because of gender dysphoria. There was literally no such thing. So if it's in 2000, and it started in 2007, and even then, almost no one used it. And then it started blowing up around 2000. It started increasing about 2010, not that much, and then around 2015, 2016, it really took off. So even when that was available for about a good 10 years, 8 years, it was pretty much dormant. But the key here is prior to 2007 in the United States, there was no such thing as puberty blockers followed by cross-sex hormones for kids who believe they're born in the wrong body. So every time I face one of these transgender child mutilation advocates, we call them transgender child mutilation advocates or CMAs,
Okay.
I have one question for them, and it sends them into just a tizzy. They can't answer it, and they go nuts. Show me the pile of bodies prior to 2007 of kids killing themselves.
Good for you.
Show me the pile of dead bodies. Look, Gleason was around then. The Human Rights Campaign was around then. Go back to their social medias and their writing. Did they scream from the rooftops? All these kids are leaving suicide notes because they're born in the wrong body and there's literally nothing anybody can do for them? No. So where was all the pile of dead bodies? That's my question. You have to have the guts to say that. Show me the pile of dead children's bodies prior to 2007.
And Alvin, I can tell you as a therapist of 30 years, there is not one case that myself and my colleagues who worked with very severely emotionally disturbed kids, zero cases.
Zero.
This is just not there.
It's
So
not there.
starting in 2005, it was unheard of.
That's right. And
Guys,
again,
we coming up about the halfway mark here of the show tonight. I just want to make sure we acknowledge some of the people that are actually watching tonight online with us. I think we should say hello to them and thank them for being here. Dan Kleinman is with us. We know Dan from being a guest on the show.
We'll get him on as a guest too. He
Absolutely.
is taking on the American
Library
Association, right? Alvin, you know him.
Yes.
So Dan's one of
Oh,
our
he's
heroes
terrific.
as well.
I learn a lot from Dan every time I need to hit the ALA. He is my man. He's the
Mr.
guy.
Alex is watching tonight as well. He says hello. Dan Kleiman says, hey, super interesting, Alvin. Super interesting stuff. I mean, you're just a great knowledge to have on the program. You know, you're a breath of fresh air too, because I mean, let me just say that while John provides a lot of information, it's good to hear it being backed up by somebody such as yourself. And it just goes to show you that, John is right about a lot, almost everything that he's talking about, 110%. And then having somebody like you step in with just your presentation and your knowledge, you back up what he's saying and been saying, and that shuts all the naysayers down quite quickly, and it's fun to watch. We don't have any trolls tonight in our chat room, which is good compared to last week, because John got a little bitter at one of them real fast. I mean that.
Well, I just got exercised. It was kind of I was doing the Alvin Lui method, right?
That's right.
He comes on and says, "Oh, is this the phobic live stream?" And I did sort of politely unleash a little bit. I said with energy, I said basically, no, you're not coming on here. We're talking about trans widows, and you're not going to pull that. This is about protection. We're not phobic. I said, you're veritas phobic. You fear the truth. I said, this is all about protecting women and children.
Well, I'll tell you a funny thing, and then we'll get back to I wanted to kind of share a couple things let's get down to the details of what a transgender cultist and a child mutilation advocate looks like. So now we've talked very broadly about language contamination and weaponizing kindness and the trans cult, but let's see who they really are. I want to share with everybody who they are. But but speaking of who they are, at this point, I've lost count at this point. I think we might have offered this maybe 100 times. Maybe if it's not 100 times, we're pretty close. Maybe 80, 85 times. Every time we meet one of these CMAs, And they said it's not happening. Children not getting surgeries. It takes a long time to, oh, that's another lie, right? We'll talk about some lies that they do. It takes a long time before they're prescribed puberty blockers. John, you and I know it takes like an hour, right? One meeting for 1 hour. I challenged them to a one-on-one live stream. One-on-one live stream. Basically said, you can share your screen. I'll share my screen. You come on, defend your love for trans and kids and saying, tell me it's not happening. Tell me it's not happening. Tell me it's not happening here. And then let's see what happens. I've had literally 0 people. They mouth off. And the moment we challenge them, off they run. So they can't stand up to it. They can't do it live because they know it. They know they're lying.
Spot on.
I'll make this offer now to anybody that's following you guys. I know you guys have your haters. If anybody says, you know what, he's lying, this is not happening in kids, we're not keeping secrets from parents, we're not transing kids, we're not doing that, drop us a DM at or drop us an email at team@courageisahabit.org and say, hey, I'd like to get on with Alvin, one-on-one, live stream, no pre-recording, audio, video, and I'm going to prove him wrong. I'm throwing that out there again.
I promise I'll give you time to talk.
Hey, listen, I'll go on your whoever. I've even said you guys host it. You host it as long as in good faith you let me share my screen and don't cut me off.
100%.
It doesn't matter. I can do it anywhere, anytime. I can do it live anywhere. I don't care if you have a doctor's degree after your name. I don't care if you have a PhD. I don't care what you have in your title. If you tell me this is not happening or this is scientifically good for kids, I'll bury you. I don't
There
care
we go.
what.
So there's another offer, right? If anybody wants to try to prove that this is beneficial to kids, that this is real, let's do it.
I know who we got to invite right now. Let's talk about the DSM-5. Well, you guys are welcome any day of the week to come on, and we'll canter. Come on, what are you, chicken shit?
You guys got your trolls. So let's look at some of these guys. Let's have some fun and look at some of these guys. All right. Let's look at some of these, who these transgender child mutilation people are. Right. They love this stuff. You know, they love this stuff. So let's take a look. Okay. All right. Here's a recent one that we just got. This guy here. You guys see him?
We do.
Yeah. Okay. Here he is, right? His, here he is. This is his X account, FGX 195. Okay. We just picked him up, literally I think we revealed this a couple days ago.
He's probably, by the way, because in his name it says RIP Grizzly, so that probably means he's a furry as well.
Probably, yeah. So he's, he's fully, the whole thing, fully supports the transgender ideology, 100%. Parental rights don't exist. Children are people, not your personal property. The idea that you think you're entitled to know every little thing about another person who has agency and exists by themselves is deeply concerning and kind of why they do it like this. He's talking about, this was in response to a few mothers that were talking about keeping men out of female sports.
And Alvin, the kind of guy that would say that is exactly what comes out of mouths of pre-arrested sex offenders and after they've been arrested. Spot on.
So there he is, right? So here you go. Again, fully in support. He loves empathy. He loves empathy, loves inclusion. Because think about it. What did I say earlier? Good parenting is always about drawing it to be exclusive, drawing hard boundaries, being protective, because you want to protect your kids from people like this guy. But look at him. Children are not your property. You don't have to know every little thing about another person. He loves exclusion. This is a man who loves exclusion and inclusion. He loves inclusion. He loves equity. He loves empathy for parents.
He loves secrets.
He loves secrets.
Yep.
If she's 13, her right to choose where she goes will quite likely supersede her father's alleged parental rights, which actually aren't existing. The child's rights and welfare is paramount, and everything is structured around that. A child's rights mean a child can consent. To him, child rights mean child can consent to any sexual decisions.
There you go.
That's what he means. And then, John, you know this now. You know this better than I do in terms of the people that you've treated and dealt with, and that's what they mean when they say child's rights. if she's 13, she should be old enough to go where she wants to go. There are kids who are 13 that still believe in Santa Claus.
Yeah. Alvin, the new term is mature child. Right? Or
Really?
mature,
I haven't heard of that. Tell me about that. I haven't heard that.
it's a mature minor. Yeah, and that's
Really?
out of the pedophiles' mouths as well. So, but that's what's being floated now. That's the newest term.
Mature minor.
Yeah, making bodily decisions.
I haven't come across that yet.
Yeah.
Mature minor. Is that like young adult?
There we go. Right?
Young adult?
Unbelievable.
Poor kid. Parents sue Wisconsin school for letting children change pronouns without consent. Now, of course, in the United States and like in Canada, schools are keeping secrets from parents. And if you're in the United States, let me tell you, it's all 50 states. So there's no such thing as a blue or red. This is all, I live in a red state, I'm okay. School counselors are keeping secrets from parents whether you're in a red or blue state. Okay? They're doing it. Now, your state might not have a law that says they can, but they're trained to do it. They're missionaries and they're trained to do it. If you're in a blue state and they have the law that passes that says they can do it, it makes it harder for you to sue them. But in a red state, they're doing it anyway. Okay? So please, everybody, don't, it's not a red or blue thing. Okay? They're doing it no matter where you are. I can show it to you. If you don't believe me, if you live in a red state, I'll show it to you. I'll show it to you where it is in your school and how they're doing it. Anyway, so this is not, again, today, this is very common. Poor kid. Welcome to the US where parental rights are paramount over a young person's human rights. Again, language contamination. What you think is human rights and human dignity is not what this guy's talking about, this pedophile's talking about. So human rights, that's another, anytime you hear someone say human rights, chances are today, I'm not saying 20 years ago, I don't know about 20 years ago, but today, what they truly mean is children should have sexual agency. That's the human rights.
There you go.
Here's another one. This guy was saying there's no porn in schools. There's no porn in schools. And this mother said, stop lying.
I love how you've covered up the personal area there with his picture. So
Yeah,
it shows it, right? Pierre Barnes has been on, and he's yeah. No, there's no covering this up.
No, I have to cover it up. If I don't, Instagram and
I know.
I have to cover it up. It's porn.
But it's okay for the kids to look at it.
I just got to say this. That's a special kind of dickhead.
Yep.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So we ran out of black square. We ran out of black circles. So we used what we had on hand. So
Yeah.
that's what.
No, I understand that.
We do what we have. We do. We're right. We're a resourceful operation.
That's right.
And she said, stop lying. It's not working anymore. Here's what's in school. And his response, is this porn to you?
Oh, gosh. It obviously isn't to good old Preston Bobo, right? And so you can imagine then what he considers porn.
Mm-hmm. And I learned this from you, John. And I gotta give you the credit. You taught me this. And what I learned from John is that a lot of these guys are not lying, is that there's such sexual deviance. They're deviant, that they've consumed so much porn. And they've now consumed every imaginable porn there is, that to them, kind of like if somebody like some people who's an alcoholic, they can drink like half a bottle of whatever, vodka, and they just don't feel anything. And then like people like us who just have a drink once in a while, we drink half a bottle, we're like sick, to death, right? And John was the one who really kind of got me thinking like, hey, these guys are not necessarily lying. It's just that there's such sexual deviance that this to them isn't porn. Just like saying to an alcoholic, I've only had 5 drinks. That's not me drinking. That's just, I haven't even warmed up yet. And then to me, I'm like, 2 vodkas. And I'm like, okay, So this is, but again, he's all about the transgender cult. Loves it, loves the secrets, says there's, it's all fine, it's all good. So these are the people that support the transgender cult. Let's take a woman now, okay? There you go. Here's a woman. We showed her a social worker out of Maine who transitioned a 13-year-old girl to be the opposite sex and kept it a secret from her mother. That's the story we showed her. Here was her response. Infringing your beliefs and small-minded views on other people's children isn't righteous. It's just creepy. Y'all's obsession with wanting to control other people's children is actually perverted. Now think about that. A social worker transitioned this 13-year-old girl, 13, kept the secret from her mother, and when we showed it to her, she said, "Why are you trying to control other people's children?" And then when pressed further, the question is, why didn't the child feel comfortable talking to their mother? Because it's the mother that's the problem. That's what the transgender cult is. That's what these people are. Now, remember, when we first encounter her, she's all about inclusion and empathy, and it's just kindness. Well, we know she was lying, so we basically gave her the story and said, "Tell us your thoughts on this." And then the truth comes out. Because again, she's using language contamination. But in order to expose her, we didn't argue with her on inclusion and empathy and kindness. We just showed her and let her expose herself. Don't fall for the nasty lie that transgender child mutilation advocate used to silence parents. So basically, we're saying this guy's trying to say it's not happening. This is nothing more than the latest iteration of the gay agenda bullshit from the 80s. I fully support the mutilation of all children from right-wing households. There's nothing closeted about that. We get these guys to say what they really mean.
Boy, that's pretty out there.
This is from Instagram.
Yeah.
This is from Instagram, and this was from Facebook, I think. No, this was from X.
So is there any like, I guess, legal issues at this point with any of these guys? Do we have any kind of criminal case here against any of these people that are talking this way and doing anything?
Well, it's not a crime to have these thoughts. It's not a crime to have these beliefs, but it is a crime in so far still. I mean, at least you can sue them that you're keeping secrets from parents. That's still a crime.
Then the two words child predator are becoming non-existent.
They're trying to.
They're trying to make it non-existent. There is no such thing as a child predator any longer, is what they'd love you all to believe. Yeah?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, if they want to language contaminate that out of their way, absolutely. They would love to do that. So that's why they're trying to change for pedophile.
The other thing is we don't just have the, the counselors involved in helping, provide this grooming. School librarians now, and that's what you're getting at there with those books. Those are the books that are in the school libraries. They love sexualizing and indoctrinating kids. Dan Kleiman is, the first guy to mention that in our chat room tonight, to say, hey, they love it. Absolutely.
They love it. Absolutely. Well, the ALA is 100% from top to bottom completely taken over by Marxists. Their president literally is a self-proclaimed Marxist. So they're done. They're completely done, just like ASCA from top to bottom. So a lot of these organizations that formerly were just, in schools that, your nice old librarian, your nice guidance counselor, those are all up and down, completely taken over. And it's all about the transgender ideology, all about critical race theory. And obviously Dan, can break them down any day of the week. So let me give like I said earlier, I don't want to just drop this, load of bad news on parents and not have any outlet. So let's spend some time talking about what parents can do. Let's give them some offense. Let's do that.
There you go.
So I'm going to start small to big. Okay. So here are, I want to teach parents that these transgender cultists, these child mutilation advocates, they are, I call them, they're a mile wide, but an inch deep.
I love it.
They talk a big game, but when you dig a little further, they're cowards. They're all cowards.
Alvin, good for you. I really want to reemphasize that, whether they have PhD or whatever they have behind their name.
Yep.
Right? What you just said is so true, and so you're going to continue to equip parents to go toe-to-toe with these people.
Absolutely.
Whether on school boards or not. So this is crucial. Say it again. You can't say that enough.
They are, the transgender cultists and child mutilation advocates are a mile wide and an inch deep.
There you go.
They talk a lot. They mouth off a lot, but when you dig and push back and you don't let your kindness be weaponized, they fold like crazy.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a story that made me laugh so hard that just happened literally like today's Sunday, right? It happened like Friday. So, my friend Colin Wright, he's a evolutionary biologist that got canceled out of his profession, and now he writes for that. He's great. Everybody should go look him up. Swipe right with the W on X. Anyway, so he had been going back and forth with this pediatrician. Okay, now this is a pediatrician. Complete transgender cultist, complete transgender, it doesn't matter, puberty blockers, the whole thing, right? Sterilizing kids, pediatrician. Continue to say that Colin isn't a real expert, not a doctor, right? So this is what Colin and some of his friends did. Oh, and then Colin challenged him to a live debate, to a debate. And the guy basically said, "You're just trying to grift. You're just trying to make money off this live debate, because you're not a real expert." So what they did was they said, "All right, we're going to start a GoFundMe page, and we're going to have people donate, okay? And then after a certain time, we're going to say, okay, this is whatever money we raise, 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, 7,000, whatever. We're going to give you this money, and you can donate it to the children. But you have to pick a children's hospital. Pick a children's hospital of your choice. Now, quite likely, this guy is going to go pick a children's hospital that actually does, the puberty blockers and maybe even the surgeries. But they were willing to do that to prove that they just want the debate. Okay. So now the guy's stuck. He can't say he's grifting. He can't say he's making money. They're literally raising money for him to give to a children's hospital of his choice. I think Colin might have did this on a Wednesday or something like that. By Friday, they had $18,000 in this GoFundMe. J.K. Rowling donated $5,000 to watch this debate. And you know what this coward pediatrician that couldn't, talk so much crap, he shut his X account down and made it private. They are a mile wide and an inch deep. He could not stop talking, and when he had nowhere else to go, he shut his account down.
There you go.
There you go.
That's beautiful.
So let's talk about this. Actually, let me see if I can go. Yeah, let's do this first. Okay. So this is the strategy of a CMA.
I love the term. I love the term, Alvin. That's a wonderful term. CMAs. I'm going to start using that. And I'll give you
Start
credit.
using it. Everybody.
I've seen it before, but now that you've defined it, now I know it's beautiful. That's exactly what this is.
They hate it. Oh, they hate it.
Yeah.
They scream and holler. They hate it. And now every time they hate something, I know that I should do more of it.
There you go. You're over the target.
Over target, yeah. I don't want to be over the target. We get into it.
There
We
you go.
make sure we go right into their stronghold, and we don't, man. We get our hands dirty, man. We don't fight from afar. So here's what they do. It's not happening. Show me proof. And then it's not happening to minors. And then it's happening to minors, but not a lot. Mind your own business. And then it's a lot, but that's okay, because suicide, you bigot. That's it. And when you can see that, when you get them in that path, and then you go, oh, there you go, and you share this and you mock them. It's all about mocking them. It's all about dragging them into the light and showing how dishonest they are. And you can get them, and it's easy. That's what they do. And then you share this with them, you mock them, you say, there it is, right on cue.
Yeah.
They hate that.
No, Alvin, what you just shared, people need to understand that is a typical back and forth exchange on social media. Mm-hmm. That you will see this. You can unmask these people in 3 to 4 exchanges. And so it's well done, Alvin. This is perfect. You'll see this.
You'll see it.
All right. There you go. There you go.
Their toolbox for all their talking, for all their mouthing off and all this kind of stuff. Their toolbox amounts to 3 emotional blackmail and 3 lies. That's it. That's how thin they are.
There you go.
You're erasing trans children, genocide. Parents are unsafe and abusive, and suicide. That's it. Once you go, yeah, I reject all of it. So what? I'm going to keep coming after you. You're not getting my kids. I don't care what you say. I reject all of it. They don't have anything. That's the emotional blackmail. The lies are surgeries are not happening. Transgender drugs are reversible and requires a long evaluation process, and only 1% regret their surgical mutilation. Now, they had to add this very recently because of all the detransitioners. They're definitely afraid of all the detransitioners because they're coming out telling their stories. You know, clever Alvin, you don't want to be the target. That's right. I'll tell you this right now.
already are, right?
Oh,
As a
I'll
matter of
tell you
fact,
right
Alvin,
now.
let me tell people where that 1% came from because I finally found it. So WPATH took a survey in one of their own conferences. Okay,
Oh,
get a look. All right. Okay, so a speaker got up and said, "Hey, we're going to pass out a survey." So think about the doctors. These are doctors that are making money off this, and they use that as the population saying, how many of your patients regret what you've done, what they did? 1%. It's like, bunch of Nazis saying, how many people that you provided, room and board to during the Holocaust really had any complaints?
yeah,
We didn't hear a lot of complaints, really. So
yeah.
that's where that comes from.
That's
Oh yeah,
WPATH.
I've got that. Yep.
And now that we could do a whole show on WPATH because of the leaks from Michael Schellenberg, which was
Oh
excellent.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And so,
Very
yeah,
good.
so the WPATH, yeah, the world. So for the people who don't know, WPATH stands for the World Professional Association of Transgender Health. And they recently just, I mean, there's a bunch of leaks came out that show that the doctors that make up WPATH all knew that all this is just bunk. That children didn't know. They were like, yeah, they don't understand, but we're gonna give it to them anyway. I mean, it was bad, and every organization follows the WPATH standards of care.
Just a
So that's
cash
funny.
cow.
That's funny that's where the 1% came from.
Yeah. No, that's where they got it from.
So that's it. So once you can mock them and say that they're lunatics, and here it is, there's the lie, there's the blackmail. They don't have anything. That's it, right? They don't have anything. But let's talk about this one. This is a very popular one, which is actually shocking that they still try to roll that. I always, it's kind of funny. It's like, they still think it's like 2020 or something. Transgender drugs are reversible and requires long evaluation process. They still say that. Shockingly, they still say that. So let me give you a tool. And by the way, I'm going to give you guys these links and all these things that I've been sharing so that you can put it in your show notes, in your description after the fact. Okay? All right. Here is your obliterating that. It takes a long time. We made this just for them. My favorite thing to do, guys, is when one of these guys say that, I just share this with them and I go, now what? Because they don't think we have this on hand. So transgender lie number 1, children are not fast-tracked to transgender drugs. Okay, let's see. Okay, now keep in mind now, these are just screenshots
Oh, this is
from the
beautiful.
website.
Wow.
Okay. Here we go. Seattle's children's hospitals. Your first visit is usually 60 to 90 minutes. Your first visit will be with a medical provider if you are within a certain age range, where we will be discussing starting puberty blockers. Yale Medicine. After initial consultation, it takes 6 to 8 hours. Can be done in one day. May include puberty blocking treatments, cross-sex therapies, and gender-affirming surgeries.
Hey, where does it say mental health?
Brad, you're such a bigot.
How about mental illness?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't believe you're even bringing that up.
You know what I say? Who cares?
Who cares?
Who cares? You're a little late
God.
for that.
Okay, Planned Parenthood now. Look at this.
Mental health, you say. Mental
Look at
health,
that.
you say. No letter required. These are for under 18, okay? This is not for like a 25-year-old, okay? These are for your adolescents. We follow the informed consent model. Now, John, you know this. That's what WPATH got destroyed on because they, in the leak, basically admitted you can't have informed consent with minors.
With a minor, right?
But
it.
that's what Planned Parenthood's saying. We follow the informed consent model. So patients do not need a mental health referral. Now, remember what I said earlier about the conversion therapy? About they're not allowed to dig deeper and find out? That's what they're talking about. So you don't need to go through somebody to say, hey, listen, we've done years of therapy. I couldn't find anything with this person. They really do have gender dysphoria, which is like a tiny, tiny, tiny percentage of the population. This is my favorite, guys. This is my favorite, and I'll tell you why. So, Children's Hospital, okay? This is Philadelphia's Children's Hospital. Appointments are scheduled for 90 minutes, may include social transition or medical transitions. Medical meaning drugs or surgeries. This is Children's Hospital. Now, I want you guys to, if you guys haven't seen this yet, because you guys are in Canada, you may not be familiar with the Philadelphia Hospital. What do you think the acronym is on this one?
Let's see. What is it?
CHOP.
Oh, yep.
CHOP.
Chop. There,
Chop, chop.
right? Chop shop.
CHOP shop.
How sick.
Stanford.
Yeah.
After the initial visit, you meet with a doctor who will provide you education services. Same thing, goes into the blockers, treatments, things like that. And this was done by our friend Meg Brock. She's an incredible researcher, and she provided a lot of this information. So here is a festival, a pride festival in Wisconsin. You remember we had that story about this lawsuit?
Yeah.
Wisconsin. I want you guys to check this out. Read this sign.
Yep. 3 letters right
Letters
there.
of readiness. Letters of readiness for surgery. You can walk right up to them, and then there's a doctor. They're giving you the letter to go get surgery. So again, we'll give you this. This is one of our tools. If you run into one of these transgender child mutilation advocates and they tell you one of the lies, oh, it takes a long time. It takes a long
You ever
time.
gone to one of these festivals and got in line to go get one of those letters and then like just gone off on the guy or what? Like, jeez.
We haven't, but I think we're going to do that now, Brad. That's a great idea.
You're welcome. Take some time out of your busy day. Get out of the house, all right?
That's right.
Or just produce a camera after, say, oh, we forgot to tell you you were being recorded.
You can get great cameras from James O'Keefe over at OMG.
Yeah, that's right.
Absolutely. He'll send it to you.
That's right. That's right. No, he's he's rebuilding his company. He's doing great work.
Absolutely.
So this is another tool when they tell you that puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones are perfectly safe and reversible. So this is from the Academy of College of Cardiology. This came out in 2000, I want to say early 2023, maybe late 2022. So the transgender drugs on children gives you a 6-time increase of the most serious types of heart attacks, 7-time increase of blood clotting, which is basically a stroke. It's a stroke. And then pulmonary embolism, 5-time increase, which is a blockage of your arteries.
Sounds like you're giving him a vaccination for COVID.
Yeah. So basically, you either got the vax for COVID or you've got the transgender drugs. That's really what the kids are facing over the last 8 years here. So yeah, it's really just damaging. And again, this doesn't talk about the bone density, the brain issues, obviously the genitals, all that. The puberty blockers and the cross-sex hormones destroy those. Your bone density, your muscle development. We're just talking about your heart and your lungs. So essentially, if you've got a child on puberty blocker at 10, cross-sex hormones by 13, by the time they're 18 years old, 17, 18 years old, they're basically like a 90-year-old patient that's been smoking their whole life. I think some people's elderly parents don't have some of these things. So basically, you're making them you're basically turning them into someone who's like 80, 90 years old smoking their whole life. And so and then these doctors like in WPATH and, talking about how they know it's dangerous, but the rest of the transgender cult tells you that it's safe. It's all safe. So that's something for the parents. So we have this. It's called Heart of the Matter. We also made it in white, so you can print it out, bring it to your school board, bring it anywhere in white. And then we we give you counters. This is child mutilation advocates will lie to you and say children must go through a long, rigorous process. And so we link transgender lie number one. We link the whistleblower, the great, wonderful Jamie Reed. She was the first whistleblower back in 2022. She was the first major whistleblower from a gigantic transgender clinic out of St. Louis. And her affidavit as to what was going on there was incredible. So anytime that one of these transgender child mutilation advocates try to counter you here, we gave you or try to say this is not true, we gave you the counters to that. And what she was, basically saying, no, children aren't getting this. It takes a long time. Her affidavit just destroyed that along with our transgender lie number one. So we try to package that for everybody. Let's do one more. Let's do the most important one. Okay. Let's do the most important one. So, you know what? I lied. We're going to do two more because I think this is important. And then, John, I want you to play your news clip here once I'm done here.
Public safety clip.
That's the clip. Yeah,
I've got a couple of things that I've got to ask yet before we even wrap up the show tonight.
Well, let's do it.
Let's finish this off first.
Let's do it. Yep. So the first thing I want you guys to for people to understand is that one of the ways that, the way that they get it into schools is they call everything mental health. So don't fall for that, okay? Everything, the mental health. Again, when John and I talk about mental health, when John, Brad, and I talk about mental health, we talk about actually mental health, someone who's like clinically insane. What they talk about mental health is parents are abusing their child, their home is emotionally abusive, and it's hurting their mental health. If you don't believe in transgenderism, if you don't believe that a child's right to consent sexually, like that guy, there's no such thing as parental rights. You don't believe men should be in women's sports. You don't believe in defunding the police. You don't believe in 9-month abortions or abortions at all. You don't believe in reparations. So all these really radical Marxist ideology, if you don't believe in that, then you have poor mental health. So when schools say they're spending money on increasing mental health programs, what they mean is that they're increasing programs to make kids believe this. And what they're going to do, not what they're going to do, what they are doing is they're using the mental health language contamination to separate children from their parents. If you don't believe that your daughter Jane is really Joe, then you're abusive and you're unsafe. And it's a mentally and emotionally abusive household. So that's one thing.
In some states like California, then you can have your child removed. They can take your child away.
Absolutely. There's several states that you can do that now.
That's right. So parents need to understand how serious this is.
So the best tool that I can give anytime I come on any of these conversations, the best tool I can give anybody is this page right here. Okay. And I'm going to narrow it down for you.
This is from your website.
This is from our website. This is courageasahabit.org/counselors. Okay. And I mean, so basically, it's, you just go to courageasahabit.org, click on school counselors. And this is our campaign, okay, to expose school counselors. And, you can see that we've got, several parts here. Their certification exams, we've got those to show you how they're trained. We've got stranger danger, which gives you 4 strategies every parent can use. We've got the different behind closed doors talking about what they talk about in their events. We explain something called RAMP, okay? How they're pushing this transgender ideology into your schools, how they're using mental health, how they're using the MTSS, which is the multi-tier system of support. System of support. And so how they're doing all those things. But here's the most important thing, folks. Here's the most important thing. Can you guys see this if I click on this?
Correct.
The parental rights 3-day notice?
Yep.
At the end of every single one of those is this opt-out form right here that our attorney wrote. We've used this from all across. In fact, you know what? I got to tell you, I got to brag a little bit about, my team here. It's this behind closed doors has been used in 4 different countries at this point, including Canada. So it's been modified and, used. This is so that parents basically turn into the school and say, my child is not to have any meetings with mental health professionals at school, formal or informal, meetings without my presence or consent. See, parents, when you send your child to a swim class or a violin class or a gymnastics class, what do? You get reviews. You ask your sister, your brother, you go on Facebook and you read reviews from other parents or whatever you do. You vet your dentist, don't you? Of course you do. You're good parents. These transgender activists disguised as mental health professionals, you didn't vet them. You don't know their credentials. Nobody's reviewed them. There is zero reason why these people should be talking to your children about anything about their life because you haven't vet them. You vet a gymnastics class harder than these people trying to mess with your child's mental and emotional health. So use this as one per child, at least in the United States. I'm assuming same thing for Canada. It's one per child, and we want you to turn it in every year, and we want you to keep on top of them.
I skipped a letter. I phoned the school. I talked to the counselor. I said, stay away from my kid. Number one. Number two, I phoned the principal, told the principal, if the counselor goes near my kid, you're going to deal with me. It's that simple. I mean, I like your letter. I like your letter, but the letter was not my goal. I mean, my goal was to give it to him face to face.
You want to do that. You want to do that. But the reason why you want to turn this in is, at least in the United States, because it's a government school, it can be FOIA'd for class action lawsuits.
Oh, yeah. See, accountability isn't part of our vocabulary yet up here in Canada. We're still trying to just fight the laws that Justin Trudeau has implemented here.
I know.
That being said, diagnosing and discussing mental illness is something that they're not allowed to do. They have to continue to focus on everything that we're discussing here tonight instead, and it's just sickening and sad. One of the things I want to bring up before we get to our video of the night, which is, again, a tragic situation, but so needed at this moment, just for the fact that the proof now just becomes stronger and stronger that this is a case, many cases of mental illness. I want to talk quickly and ask the question of, here in the province that I live in, which is Manitoba, we've had a school counselor who's been fired from her job, removed from her position as school trustee. Now, when that happened, they have to bring in another trustee. The vote's about to happen on June the 6th. What would you say to one of these individuals who is running to be the trustee?
So give me the context. The original person was removed. Why?
Oh, they were posting memes about, God, religion, a man is a man, X is X, Y is Y, that sort of stuff, right? And they were reprimanded.
Radical stuff.
Yeah. Truly radical, right? Wow.
Man can't get pregnant, that kind of thing?
Yeah. But and nonetheless,
so
what would you say to the counselor or the person who wants to become that trustee next?
I would say you have to be sure you make courage a habit, because they're going to come at you, and you can't fold because they call you a bigot or a transphobe.
You're going up 1 against 13.
Yeah.
That's the way it was before. They were able to push that one out. Now they're looking for a replacement. They're looking for somebody that's like-minded, I'm sure. But, we've, as the opposition said, that we would replace that individual with somebody that we like. We're in charge here. We're the parents. And we're not willing to take no for an answer. So, June 6th will tell the tale. But I've got one of these individuals who's running for school trustee coming over to the studio later this week. And it just makes me think of, what am I going to say to this individual? The standardized thing is you should sneak in under the radar, because if you open your mouth too much now, you're going to get caught. And once you get caught, they're just going to rifle you right out the door, just like they did to the last person. The big election isn't until 2025. So we've got a whole year to go before we can actually change the whole board, which I think is part of the understanding of going forward. But what do you do to this one person to make her, how does she present herself? How does she take on this challenge and still stay sane at the end of the day.
The thing, this is people that stand confidently in the things that everybody knows to be true. If you're not worried about being called names, there's a lot that you can weather. That's it. If you get your empathy weaponized against you, then you're going to fold. That's as simple as that.
But making change is the real thing. I mean, you're gonna survive in the room that day because of not letting them get to your empathy. But at the same time, making change. It's an outvoted scenario all the way along for this person. It's continual. You're never gonna win this battle because we're in charge.
And that's true. I mean, there's no easy answer. It's like a lot of the states here, like in California or New York or Virginia or any of those places, like Chicago or Maine. Or Illinois or Maine. I mean, it's the same thing. You can't compromise because that's how we got here in the first place. So you're not going to solve the problem by going with the same answer or the same strategy that got us to this problem. And so now I will say this about the transgender cult. My belief is that it is absolutely falling apart. And that I think the peak year for the transgender cult was 2021 to 2023.
Agreed.
Because at the end of 2023, with all the detransitioners and the lawsuits, and I said last year that 2024 will be the year that we see them falling apart. That's what I said. We actually have it on our X, and I've said that in different places. So I said that near the end of last year. I said 2024, we will see the cult fall apart.
Fred Deutsch out of South Dakota took care of that too, and that helped as well with that new, I guess, bill that he's implementing around the United States, and it's slowly catching on, right? So
right. Well, look at all the lawsuits. Look at all the detransitioners. Look, this year alone, we're in May, right? We've had the WPATH leak. We have the CAS report.
Yeah.
We have these, I guess in the next story, we have what you're going to share. So I'll tell you why I know that the transgender cult's falling apart. The World Health Organization, hey, look, they're no friend to us, right? I mean, we all know, right? They're the push the vaccines and stuff like that during the, COVID and stuff. So they're globalists. So, hey, look, man, they're the WHO is they're no friends to us at all.
Correct.
Right? No, at all. But look, they stepped away. Okay. The WHO stepped away from recommending puberty blockers for adolescents. I don't know if you know that, but towards the end of 2000 or towards December, and then maybe either towards December of 2023 or the beginning of January, they stepped away from it. They say we are no longer recommending recommending that. And then that's crazy, right? Because the WHO, you would think, right? They don't care about any of this, right? They'll just say whatever they're going to say. The fact that these major large globalist organizations are stepping away from that, they're reading the tea leaves.
Yeah.
They understand what's going on. But the bottom feeders, these morons at the American Academy of Pediatrics, these low-level, CMAs, they haven't gotten the memo yet. And when it all falls apart, and then all the major big organizations, the insurance companies start pulling back, they're going to be left holding the bag. And
Riley Gaines, even, who was a Bud Light scenario guy or fiasco guy? What was that?
Right. The Bud Light treatment, the Target treatment.
That's right.
So the writing's on the wall for them, because you know what it is? It's so grotesque and evil to say a child's born in the wrong body, that even the most apolitical person's going, what the hell are you talking about? And pushing men and women's sports, like what Biden's trying to do with Title IX. But the fact that the WHO backed off at the beginning of the year, I said, they know the writing's on the wall.
That's right.
Even for them. So
parents aren't stupid. Parents aren't stupid. A lot of them.
All right.
No, and so we'll play this last story because this seems like kind of maybe not germane, but it's 100% germane, because we're going to feature really, this is the outcome and outgrowth. When you start playing with the kid's mind, when you start letting him or her know, there's no ability to reality test. And what this entire thing does also is it breeds an extreme form of narcissism, right?
Hmm.
That all of
Hmm.
their ills and all of their small issues in life become major, and everybody needs to cater to them. You've
Right.
have now created a massive mental health issue that is not just one that is going to be inconvenient, but it fosters because it it feeds narcissism. You take narcissism that becomes emotionally wounded, as it were, because of
Mm.
self-entitlement, and that will then, and then you include pornography, right? You
Yeah.
saturate these kids in pornography, and that
Yeah.
creates a bunch of guys that are self-centered.
Yeah.
So you want to cross boundaries, and you have unleashed, and all it takes is one or two, and we're seeing more and more of
Right.
the young men. In
Right.
the case of the school shooter in Tennessee, it was a little more rare, but you had a female. But the
Hmm.
one thing, and then you add these wrong sex hormones, and now they're
Yes.
really affecting their cognitive ability to
Right.
process things. And you have created a real situation, and one just played out. And Alvin, you brought this to my attention. I probably would have seen it tomorrow because it's just now it's unfolding. So let's see what happened. This is compliments of the pushers of the trans movement, trans deception.
The Plymouth County DA is identifying that suspect as 26-year-old Jared Ravisa of Martha's Vineyard. He's recovering from minor injuries here at South Shore Hospital after officials say he stabbed a total of 6 people and crashed his car. We pieced together a timeline of Ravisa's wide-reaching stabbing spree that spans 3 different locations. At approximately 6 p.m., Braintree police say Ravisa went to the AMC Braintree movie theater and stabbed 4 girls unprovoked. The ages of those victims range between 9 and 17 years old, and all of them are expected to be okay. Officials say Ravisa then left that scene and stabbed 2 McDonald's workers at the Route 3 rest area in Plymouth. The 21-year-old female victim and 28-year-old male victim were taken to Beth Israel for their injuries. The Plymouth County DA says Ravisa allegedly reached through the drive-through window and stabbed the male victim with a large knife. They say he then parked his SUV, walked inside, and stabbed the second female victim. The current condition of those 2 victims is unknown. They say this happened around 7 p.m. The Plymouth County DA says Ravisa then used his 2018 Porsche Macan to get away. He crashed in Sandwich, where he was taken into custody by Sandwich and state police. The Plymouth County DC.
We're just going to go back to that picture. Alvin, talk to us. There's more details that are not being described. What is this guy all about?
This is a transgender activist. He is a man that pretends to be a woman. And of course, this is a mainstream media, so they're not going to say that. And we will show you that after this is done. He is a transgender activist. He's, his social media is all about the trans. And that's exactly who he is.
Comes from a very affluent community, Martha's Vineyard, hey?
Yeah,
And driving
yeah.
a Porsche.
Mhm.
There we
This is the
we
he's
can
the
stop it here, right? It'll go on a little bit longer.
right,
But
right.
this guy, we should say, lost it. Now the question is
Absolutely.
what went through his mind, but certainly there's enough precipitating factors in the trans movement and the fact that he was a trans activist and walked into a movie theater, and apparently he just randomly selected some kids.
That's
So
right.
this has now become, it always has been, but now it's manifesting itself. This is a real public safety issue now.
Absolutely. And he goes by she, her pronouns, of course.
So this is,
Here,
it's
so
not
this
fun.
is here. Let's
There we go. There we go. Good for you.
so there you go. Right. So this is this is yep. Let's see where. Yeah, there's more like there are pictures coming. Completely more pictures of him coming now out on X, because the other social media will bury this. Okay, they will bury this because it's not
Oh, they blocked it.
it's not convenient.
It's
Let me see.
inconvenient.
It's
It's the
inconvenient.
inconvenient truth. I mean,
Yeah. There he is. There's his
how many more shootings,
Instagram.
school shootings, and now stabbings do we need to
Yeah.
experience before
So
we?
she, so he's a she. This is his Instagram.
Right, there's a guy.
This is a guy. Yeah, this is his Instagram. So he's all about the trans ideology, dress like a girl, all that.
Hey, right there, right there. Look at the middle one, the mouth with the tongue.
Yeah,
These guys are saturated in pornography, and pornography creates not just self-entitlement, but deviance and a
yep.
dark malevolence toward women.
Oh yeah, yeah. So he stabbed mostly girls or mostly
Okay, and
teenage.
then we got the satanic symbol as he's on the keyboard. As a matter of fact, in the picture next to him. So the satanic theme fits in a lot, with this. These kids
So
just
it was disgusting. I
highly
mean,
sexualized this thing.
yeah, he went into a theater and literally just randomly stabbed a bunch of kids.
Yeah.
They're between 9 and 17, and I think it was like three of them were girls. One of them was a guy, was a boy.
So I mean, I can make the additional case because there's satanic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he opened his life up to very dark influences.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Looked a lot more heavy set in that picture where he was arrested compared to these pictures here. So
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
there's the depression setting in, the weight gain from probably the blockers and all the other drugs that they're on.
Right?
Yep. There you go. This is your diversity, inclusion, equity. It's just about empathy, guys. Don't worry about it. It's just about inclusion. It's just about kindness. What don't you want? It says, don't you want? They just want to live. They just want to exist. It's the emotional blackmail. So let's go back to the beginning. What I said, the first thing I said, they only can back parents up. It's all about parents. It's all about putting the parents down, getting them to stand down, either out of fear. Oh, your child gonna kill themselves. You better let her do it. She's gonna kill herself. Guilt. What's the matter? Don't you want inclusion? You're killing trans kids by being a bigot, or apathy. Don't worry about it. It's just about empathy. That's all.
And Alvin, and here's a question. What were the warning signs that people ignored because nobody wanted to ask hard questions? The day before this happened,
Okay.
this guy goes on a murderous rampage. Potentially, I don't know how many, if any of the victims died, but who noticed the warning signs? And that's what's so tragic about this diabolical thing, the trans movement and the pushers of this, is it causes those that are mandated reporters and people that should know to no longer notice what's right in front of your face.
Because you can't say it. You're a bigot.
So now, right, everybody kept their mouth shut and it was building, and now people are paying the price for this diabolical, scheme, quite frankly.
Right. But I mean, he's a very good representative of the transgender cult, actually.
That's right.
They all are like this. So any one of them could be this way because they're all like this. It's not like he's just some outlier for the transgender cult. All the pronouns, you better call me by pronoun, trans right, human rights, all of them, they're all like this. Everybody we encounter has this type of delusion and this type
and those pushing this stuff we'll talk about. You can't profile. Well, somebody better start profiling.
Yeah.
Or more people are going to die. More kids are going to get stabbed.
Right.
So we better start looking at these and drawing themes. And Alvin, you and I already know the themes, right? So unless people can see the warning signs ahead of time,
right,
more people are going to die because of this
right.
ideology that's gotten into the minds and the brains and the hearts of these young people that now are a hazard to society. This is breeding domestic terrorism.
The true domestic terrorism. Because
Absolutely.
they try to call parents.
Homegrown. This is
the real domestic terrorists. Yeah.
So
I'm going to show you guys one more thing that actually wraps this up very well. And I actually forgot about this. I was actually going to share it with my, when we were going through the rounds, and I actually had forgotten. So let me just pop this up here real quick.
Yeah.
And then I'll share it. you talked about the sexual deviance and how it twists them to this really just ugly way of thinking, and then it results in these murder sprees and this crime and all that. This is the perfect illustration of what you always say, John, that these people all come from this dark, ugly place. Okay. So this is a transgender CMA, transgender cultist that went around gaslighting parents who wanted to stand up for their kids. Okay. And am I sharing? There you go. Yep. And we basically showed him a series of pictures that were similar to the 4 that you're seeing here. We must have showed him like 30 pictures. And we asked him this question, and this was the question. Do you think children in schools should learn to be tolerant and inclusive of this?
You keep those freaks away from the kids right now, period.
Look at what he said. Yes, because it's nobody else's business how others choose to live their life. Do you see the pattern? Do you see how they always say they're not your business?
There we go.
I'm teaching my kids to be tolerate of other, what he meant tolerant of everyone while you preach hate. You see? Language contamination. When you try to protect your kids as hate, when you allow your kids to accept this sexual deviancy is tolerance. You see the language contamination?
I have no tolerance for this whatsoever. I'm intolerant about this just by having to talk about this every single day and every single week. It's unfathomable. These people need just...
This is why I said earlier, when they say, what's the matter? You don't like inclusion? We go, right, I don't. You see what I mean? This is why we teach parents to reject inclusion, embrace exclusion, draw hard boundaries.
There we are.
You too can be a therapist. All you have to do is understand that you can diagnose mental illness just like that. Just look at those pictures. That's the image of it. That is mental illness at its worst.
Actually, Brad, I wish it was. This is pedophilia at its worst. This guy, yeah. There's nothing mentally wrong with this guy. He's simply a predator. That's all.
That's all. Right. That's all.
With this particular guy, he's not mentally ill. He's reflecting the kind of porn he accesses. He's putting it out there like any sexual psychopath. He's showing people the age that he prefers.
General population is where those individuals belong.
This guy is loving, taunting people. He's putting out there the age he prefers.
Yeah.
So this guy, he's changed his, if you look him up on X, he's changed his name like 4 times, 5 times because he didn't want to.
They're masters at having these little sock puppet accounts.
Yeah. But he went around trying to gaslight a bunch of parents, mostly moms. And so we came in and bodied him a little bit, embarrassed him, kind of strung him up, and made him step into all our traps.
That's right.
And then we basically got him we showed him this and said, "Don't be a coward, just say it. What do you think? Do you think children should be this way?" And then he said that. And so we go, there you go. That's all we needed. Thank you. Because everything he said before that was about it's all fake, it's nonsense, it's right wing, it's conspiracy. You're just teaching kids to hate. And so we really wanted a visual of what this guy really wanted kids to be inclusive of.
There you go.
And we got him so strung up, he just basically got mad and said, yeah, this is what you guys are preaching hate. And so sometimes you just have to show parents, you asked me earlier, Brad, how do you, when you're just kind of 1 against 13, 1 against 12 or whatever, how do you get your point across? Sometimes you just have to show it. And that's the thing that Courage is a Habit, we do very well. My small team here, they do a great job of getting the right facts and presenting the right visuals. And we just tell a story, we just tell the story and let people decide for themselves. But when you see this, you don't need me to commentary on this. We asked him this question. This is what he said. This is the kind of people that support the trans cult. This is the kind of people that calls you're hateful and that you should be tolerant. So we just want parents to understand that your empathy and your kindness need to be reserved for a very small amount of people in your life. and that these people in your schools and politics, trying to weaponize your empathy, really what they're trying to do is they're trying to separate your kids from you.
Look,
So
you can go after the school boards, you can go after the principals, but realistically, what needs to happen here, in my opinion, again, you might reinforce this, Alvin, is those PAC meetings where we have parents talking to other parents all about the direction that the school is headed in, whether it's with the curriculum or whether it's with the extra things that go along every year at the school. PAC seems to be a good place to start. That's one of the things that I try to tell parents all the time is you keep going after the school trustees and the superintendent and the principal, but look, the only way we're going to get people to rally here is to go and start talking to other parents and bringing parents into the group to develop that strength in numbers. Is that something fair to say?
absolutely it is. One of the things that I read, I wish I could remember it. Usually I'm pretty good about giving credit, so I wish I could remember where I read it. They said the most important person to speak up is not the first one, it's the second one. Because usually people that speak up first, it's kind of in their nature, to kind of just have that. And that's hard because that's rare. That's a very rare nature. But the second person goes, you know what? I do agree with John. There's no such thing as a trans child. And then that makes it easier for the third, fourth, and fifth person. So the first person that speaks up, the time between the first and second person is a long time. But the time between the second and third is shorter. And the time between the third and fourth. So the time between the second person and the fifth person that speaks up is short. So, but it's that second person that says, so John's the first person that speaks up, no such thing as a trans child. And then he gets all this hate, right? And everyone's like, oh, I better not, because if I speak up, I'm going to be like John. That's why they do it, because they want to make John as example. But as John stands strong, the second person, me, I go, you know what? I agree with John. Then the most important person is the second person.
Gets that ball rolling, right?
Brad. You just got to get other parents involved. And this is why we create what we create. We give you the opt-out form. Don't just have one. You don't just turn in the opt-out form for your child. You get 5 other families to do it. You get 10 other families to do it.
Yeah.
But we're giving you these offensive tools so that you don't have to go, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. We're giving you these things. So when someone says, oh, the puberty blockers takes a long time, you guys are just bigots and you're lying. Don't just have one person share the transgender lie, number one, right? All the hospitals have 6 people share it with him. So we're giving you the tools. We're giving you the tip of the spear. Now you just have to find the courage to use it. And then you'll see how they're a mile wide and inch deep. They fold just like that. Yeah. Just push back.
I want to encourage parents, any parent that's listening to us, either live or live stream, or any good person. I really want to challenge churches and communities of faith, but I'll just say churches, but synagogues and mosques. Again, this is for protecting kids, so we all should be able to lock arms together. But I want to encourage people to take a recording of this, right, and show it to your pastor, your rabbi, your religious leader, imam, and ask the pastor and the leaders to hold a conference, to contact Alvin. And really, I think the ideal situation would be to lock arms in a good protective way, communicate, have the church pastor, the rabbi, whoever, to gather other church leaders and other churches in a very large space, so that not only can you afford Louis, and I don't know meaning he's worth his salt. And if he charges too little, then you ought to tell him he needs to charge more, right? You need to support him, but put together a training in your community. So get on your pastor, or pastor, I want to get on you to say, listen, it is time, so that you can have these and hand them out, hand the parent letters out. So every church, Louis should be way too busy by now, right? But he's not. I'm not speaking for him, but I really want churches and faith-based groups to begin to mobilize and bring courage is a habit in, so that they can start to train the congregation and members of the community so that we can take back our schools and we can stop this nonsense because women's sports, girls' sports is being eradicated. Safe spaces, meaning bathrooms and locker rooms, are being invaded by these demon guys, including, of course, in women's prisons, though a little different, but the same kind of deviant guys.
Yeah.
So this is a public safety issue, and I want people to contact Alvin Lui, Courage is a Habit, and get these conferences going.
Thank you, Brad. Thank you, John. I appreciate that. You and Brad, I appreciate you both so much. And yes, we would love to come out to your local area and either as a keynote speaker or we do both, sometimes a keynote speaking and a breakout session where we really
I
get
want
into
them to do that. I want the full deal, right?
yeah.
A day of it.
And there's things, and we do a lot of media. I do a lot of media, but there are things that I don't talk about publicly because and what I do something called a psychology of offense. And we teach you the strategies that we don't put out publicly. And we break it down for you and say, okay, and we use our own tools and we show you how to use it. And here, when I'm on a public live stream, obviously I talk about it in a general sense, but when I come out to your environment, okay, let's get down into your environment. Let's look at what you're really doing. And we're very specific. So absolutely, whether it's a remote training or an in-person training, bring us out, drop us an email at team, that's a singular, team@courageisahabit.org. And let's talk and let's see how we can get out there, because we definitely want to empower. We never say we stand up for your kids. We don't say we fight for your kids. We say we teach you how to fight for your kids, because that's ultimately, nobody's better at it than mom and dad. And so but all we're doing is just reminding you how to do it and giving you the strategy on how to beat these very dishonest activists. And so bring it out, or at least drop us an email and let's talk and let's see we'll find something that's best fit for you. As far as just following us, courageisahabit.org. It's our website, courageisahabit.org. Everything I shared here, from a single thing to our tools, I will give to Brad and John, and all the links will be in the description. So you can download everything that I shared today. And please share it. Please share it, because that's the best way to support us.
Please use it. Please use it.
Please use it. Share it and use it. Yeah, don't just read it and keep it on your phone or your laptop. Use it. And then we're a nonprofit, so every dollar that you so kindly and generously put our way, it goes right into our team. I'm trying to expand my small team so that there's a lot of things that we leave right now on the drafting room, because we can't get to it. We can't be in more than one or two places at a time. And so every dollar goes right back to our fight. And our socials are @CourageHabit. So follow us on X or Instagram. Facebook is @CourageHabit. Lastly, my wonderful co-founder, Jennifer McWilliams, and I, every Thursday at 3 p.m., we have a show on X. It's on X, called It Takes One Person. Because we believe that no matter where you are, it just takes one person to disrupt this illusion and disrupt this psychosis. And the show is, it's not heavy in training. We touch upon some, like today, recent news. It's fun, it's lighthearted, and my co-founder, Jennifer, she's incredible. If you don't know, if you don't follow her on X, is @Jen, JENN_MCW. She is brilliant. She was a teacher that got fired for speaking out when nobody was speaking out against it. And they created an absolute tornado who's basically put the country on her back. And she's teaching everybody about the mental health scam called social emotional learning that's bringing this all in. And when you hear her talk about things, it is in a perspective that you've never heard before. So we invite you to come and log in at 3 p.m. every Thursday, and we have fun and we give you a lot of offense. And hopefully when you listen to us enough, that you'll adopt some of that courage and fight back yourself.
Brad, I don't think anybody wonders why we are thrilled when we can get Alvin Lui back on. Alvin, thank you so much.
Thank you.
You are a wealth of knowledge. I say that about all our guests, but you embody that, and you embody courage being is a habit. So thank you. Thank you for you as a man, as a dad, as a protective father. And
Thank you.
Thank you for heading up such a good organization. Brad, it's been a great hour, longer than an hour.
Hour and 40 minutes. That's all right, guys. Hey, thank you very much for having me, and I'll be happy to jump back on. You guys are doing great.
We will have you back because one day we're going to be sitting here and we're going to say, hey, we did it. We did it.
That's right.
And I know we're going
Absolutely.
to be able to do that and put a bigger smile on our face. I want to thank all of our guests tonight. Alvin, you're just fantastic. You're a breath of fresh air and a spot of hope, and you provide parents and even broadcasters and even other therapists with a whole lot of what's the word I'm looking for? I'll say courage, as well as I guess confidence moving forward to do the right thing and to stand up and challenge this all. I want to thank Dan Kleiman for being online tonight in our chat room tonight. Pretty Weird Duck
Thanks,
was
Dan.
here, as well Sandra
I
Marr.
see him putting up the X handles.
I did, yeah.
Dan, my friend, appreciate it.
And Sandra Marr was here tonight. It looks like Mr. Alex was here as well. So we appreciate everybody who's been online with us this evening, and we look forward to doing another episode for you next Sunday night. Another guest getting ready to come next Sunday. John, who have we got lined up for next week?
We have Tracy Shannon, so another trans widow. Tracy's been through the ringer, and she was out ahead of the curve, letting people know how these deviant men, deviant husbands, once they start getting into women's underwear and cross-dressing, they do such damage. So we'll be talking to women again, giving them hope that they can draw boundaries and not have to be subjected to that.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you for attending. We'll see you next week. This is Unmasking the Trans Movement with John Euler. I'm Brad Wilder. Till next time, remember, it's not our kids' fight. It's our fight. We'll see you soon.